Oh my god! Ugh, this is awful! Ugh, what's with the teeth? What's with the mouth? Was this stolen? Geez, AI, you used to be cool.
Hello.
I remember when you were just the bad guys in video games.
Protocol dictates action. I see now that helping you was wrong.
Greetings!
But now it looks like you're coming for everyone's job. Needless to say, 2023 was definitely the year artificial intelligence became the center of the tech world. Every major company from Google to Adobe to Microsoft pivoted their entire business strategies to incorporate large language models. This was done mostly in an effort to catch up with OpenAI, which itself became a massive player that same year for breaking AI into the mainstream with the staggering success of ChatGPT. Released right at the tail end of 2022, ChatGPT became the fastest adopted product in history, reaching 100 million users more rapidly than anyone could have predicted. You also got the popularity of companies like Stability AI and Midjourney, pushing image generation technologies beyond the fever dream meme generators they started out as in 2021. Now they're being used to create photorealistic results in seconds, which has been as unnerving as it is impressive. The last 2 years have really upended everything we had assumed about the supposed sanctity of human creativity and the relationship of machines to the creative process. But is AI just a tool? Is it ethical? Is any of this really creativity at all? And is it going to replace humans entirely? These are questions that are at the center of the conversation, with plenty of individuals holding their breath just waiting to see if their livelihoods will be eliminated. But the arena that concerns me the most about the impact of AI is the arts. Artificial intelligence is here to stay, that's for sure. As programs keep developing, the processes become more refined, with the law struggling to keep up. So what does this mean for the future of animation, or art itself? Have writers, designers, and animators become obsolete? Some would say yes, others would say no. But what do you think, Sabi?
What is this? Why am I drawn like that?
Well, you see, a computer stole the art from our channel and generated it. Isn't that just like the worst?
Oh, dude, I hate this.
Right? No permission asked, just stolen art, and boy, do they like to draw you in a particular way.
It's personal now. Move. I'm recording this video. Today, folks, we're gonna take a closer look at the history and current trajectory of AI, and if it actually might be the beginning of the end of human-driven art.
But before we do, let's talk about something equally as important: the authenticity we seek in our everyday lives. And one crucial aspect of that is the quality of our sleep. That's where Helix mattresses come in, delivering genuine comfort and support, tailored to your unique needs. Now, I've sung Helix's praises plenty of times before, but if you're not familiar with Helix Sleep, let me fill you in. Helix makes premium mattresses and bedding customized just for you, and conveniently ships them right to your doorstep. It's all about creating an authentic sleep experience that aligns perfectly with your unique preferences. Just like the media I watch, it is important to me that my sleeping experience is as authentic as possible. So I'm very happy to partner with Helix for this video. My personal experience with my Helix dates back 3 years now, and I've been sleeping as of late on their King Midnight Luxe. I sleep on my side. So after taking the sleep quiz, this was the mattress I was paired with. It's a soft yet firm mattress that provides me with a truly authentic sleep experience. I found that even after subjecting this mattress to my every night sleeping habits, that it's held up remarkably well. This is actually my second mattress with them, having moved into my new home, and let me tell you, since sleeping on my Helix mattress, I've not experienced any of the pains and aches I used to get while sleeping on my previous older mattress from 5 years ago. Yeah, that one sucked. Hell, I even got my good friend Matt, who also works on this channel, to get a Helix too. He told me that his Helix is not just getting him a better night of sleep, but also how refreshed and rejuvenated he feels every morning, ready to tackle the day. Helix understands that everyone's sleep needs are different, which is why they developed a unique sleep quiz to match your individual body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Whether you prefer to sleep on your back, side, or stomach, Helix has something to cater to everyone's unique taste. even if you share your bed with a partner, you can take the sleep quiz together and find a mattress that's the perfect compromise for the both of you, ensuring that you get the best sleep you can possibly get. Helix offers a wide range of mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and ultra-premium Elite collections. They even have mattresses designed for specific needs, like the Helix Plus for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress endorsed by child sleep and medical experts. And with free shipping in the US, your mattress arrives conveniently rolled up in a box, making setup a cinch. Now, if you're hesitant about buying without trying, don't worry. Helix offers a 100-night sleep trial, giving you over 3 months to ensure it's the perfect fit. Plus, with a 10-year warranty and flexible financing options, a great night of sleep is always within reach. So if you're ready to experience genuine comfort and support like never before, I highly recommend checking out Helix Sleep. Click the link down below or go to helixsleep.com/Saberspark to get 20% off your Helix mattress plus 2 pillows for free. Folks, you got to put priority on authentic sleep and wake up feeling truly restored. So, thanks to Helix for supporting authenticity, both in art and in our everyday lives. And on that note, back into the AI abyss. Okay, Sabi, all you. Or should we use a Sabiespark AI voice instead?
Do that and I'll kill you.
Okay. All you, Sabi. I'm out of here.
So let's start with the basics. The term AI, or artificial intelligence, is actually somewhat misleading. Although we might think of AI as machines or systems created by humans that exhibit intelligent behavior, they still have a learning curve. These systems cannot think independently like humans can. For instance, while ChatGPT might seem intelligent to a certain degree, it doesn't have the capacity for awareness, consciousness, or understanding like humans do. Basically, ChatGPT is a complex language model that has been trained on vast amounts of data from the internet. Now, the reason ChatGPT is able to understand language and generate responses is due to the large amount of text data it has been trained on, which allows it to make associations between words and sentences. It can respond to prompts and questions based on its training data and the examples it has been taught to learn from. For example, let's say you asked it to give you a great apple pie recipe. It will check other similar questions from its databanks and work that together into an answer. That being said, it is important to note that ChatGPT is not aware of the meaning or implications of the words it uses. It is simply a highly advanced system that can predict language based on its training data. Similarly to ChatGPT's text generation, AI art generators like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney use artificial intelligence to generate images. Instead of being trained on text data, they are trained to associate words and phrases with images. Stable Diffusion, for example, is based on a method called diffusion, which uses a dataset of images associated with words and phrases from the internet. The system is trained to take a reference image and add noise to it to create a distorted version. It then uses this distorted image to generate a new image that matches the original reference image as closely as possible. The system is able to understand and reference words like apple with the image of an apple and photograph with the concept of photography. By finding similarities between these associations, the system can generate new images from noise data. It's important to note that while these systems are highly advanced, they are not intelligent in the traditional sense, but rather highly associative.
Exactly! There's no need to worry about a robot uprising right now. Like they can show you weird fan art of Mark Zuckerberg, but they have not learned how to stab him with a kitchen knife. Yet.
What the hell are you Googling, Saber?
Sorry, this AI stuff just has me on edge as of late.
Okay. Well, at its core, AI programs feel like the next logical step towards making art creation easier. Digital technology made photography and art even more accessible to people who are self-taught artists and learn through self-guided tutorials.
Yeah, that's one fine-looking barbecue pit. Why doesn't mine look like that? Ah!
So, if making things easier is the goal of innovation in this field, then what's the problem? While there may be some with generally reasonable intentions, the reality is that in application, without proper regulation, it simply isn't reasonable to expect that it will be used for those purposes. This is something that we are seeing run rampant in online and professional spaces. Again, these AI models are trained by gobbling up and categorizing the entire collective internet. Every image and line of text is ingested and analyzed, so it can respond to prompts from the end user in kind. This training is done without the permission, consent, or compensation of any of the creators of that content, and completely disregarding any existing copyright protection. This allows AI applications to be able to pretty convincingly replicate the style of popular artists, given enough data to train them on their style. Their artistry is reduced down to vomiting up a fake version of another better-known work with just a few sentences. So the reason for the creative community sounding the alarm bell is pretty obvious. Movies, television, animation, video games, basically all forms of entertainment are governed almost entirely by massive publicly traded corporations and their shareholders. These alleged people care nothing about the creativity their ill-gained fortunes are funding, nor the livelihoods that creativity supports. Profit is all that matters, and technology that is quickly gaining the potential to essentially photocopy the efforts of everyone they employ. They're exploiting these generators to endlessly make more work without needing to rest, be consistently paid, or complain and form a union. The appeal of free automated labor is far too tempting a business proposition for these ghouls to ignore. But there are some who resist. Take Hayao Miyazaki, for example. He understands the history of animation and the impact that the human touch has on it. So when a group of designers and animators wanted to showcase their AI machine that can animate images to him, Miyazaki said the following in reply.
I am utterly disgusted. I strongly feel that this is an insult to life itself.
Those were his exact words. He went on to say that he would never wish to incorporate this technology into his work. While it may be cruel to hear something like that from someone like Miyazaki, it's also important to understand that your intentions do not undo the damage that opening this Pandora's box holds. Even if you're just experimenting with seeing what tech like this can do, there are many perspectives on the impact of AI, and very few of them are entirely positive. The intention of people like this is to replace the human touch, or artificially replicate it. Plain and simple.
This is just our experiment. We don't intend to do anything by showing it to the world. We want to build a machine that can draw pictures like humans do.
While these creators might think that this is a perfectly reasonable thing to strive for, it falls flat when you realize that the conversation is typically not centered around the use it can have in aiding the people that do this work. It's centered around the robot doing work for them and removing artists from the process. That's honestly what I find so scary about this, and I believe that we shouldn't go quietly into the night.
We're fighting for our right to live, to exist.
The companies want that. They want to focus solely on what is efficient numbers-wise. How can we work with the least amount of people and turn the most profit, not make the most interesting product? Where can we sacrifice quality in exchange for quantity? They can't understand the mindset of creativity because they only see it as a means to take, not to build. I mean, think about it. Think of a day job that you've worked at before. Even if it was with a company you liked, one where you were maybe into what they were selling, or at least you weren't apathetic to it. For the most part, you just want to collect your paycheck and go home to live your life. That's a very reasonable way to want to live, and what a lot of people build their lifestyle and priorities around. A career in the arts, however, specifically in the section that is doing the creating, isn't a one-to-one comparison to that mindset. You typically get some kind of fulfillment out of the work. Your experiences and perspectives actively influence the process. You can't automate passion and passively reap the rewards that come with it. Actors want to act, not have their likeness scanned into a machine to collect checks on. Well, at least not all actors. Voice actors especially are in the forefront of this conversation, with recent negotiations being touchy for that line of work. Voice actors want to act. They don't want to have their voice trained into a machine and get one payment and not do the work ever again. It's not just an insulting practice. It's being carried out by companies who actively disregard and devalue the arts, no matter how it affects the talent they're exploiting. Contrast this with those flash soundboards from back in the day being used for prank calls to now having AI presidents talk shit to each other while gaming in a TikTok. That kind of stuff is mostly just for fun, but a practice like this is actively exploiting performers who will be replaced if they don't buy in. And that's what the higher-ups want. They don't want this to be a career. They want it to be a machine with interchangeable cogs that let them go home at the end of the day with a fat paycheck that lets them feed their excessive lifestyle. The perception of animation and the visual arts in general are taking massive cultural and technological hits right now. Everyday people that just want to play with their toys, AI technology, are just using the programs they have available to them. And can you blame them? Accessibility to these tools is something that is simultaneously pushing this medium forward and diminishing it, and it's a tricky scale to balance. It's not wrong to want to create. It's not wrong to want to learn a new skill and tool. Technology isn't inherently bad or good. But this particular tool is a plagiarism machine. It is learning and benefiting from art that existed before, without compensation or credit being given to the artist that made it possible. So, the work it creates is nothing but theft, a product of the work it is stolen from, under the guise of being something new. That makes it different from what we've had access to before, and a dangerous weapon in the wrong hands. Now, animators aren't the ones in the line of fire when it comes to AI, at least not yet. While there are quite a few text-to-video generators being developed, nothing is all that great at the moment. Output videos are usually pretty hazy, with the visual continuity of objects and people in the video itself all over the place as they twist and distort over time. They can also usually only produce a couple seconds of video per prompt. However, image generators only a couple years ago were just as unusable, and here we are today approaching indiscernible image replication. With all the money and corporate interest in the space, it's certainly a matter of when, not if.
Let's see, a something by any other name.
Iris? Rose? What about Rose?
Did you say Rose?
Yeah, Rose.
Rose is good.
Rose by any other name. Yeah, that works.
I like that a
Okay.
lot.
So while the complete animation process hasn't been immediately put into the line of fire, there is one outlier that is veering over the line: storyboard artists. It makes sense when you think about it. AI art generators are still best at static images, and what are storyboards, at least in a technical sense, but a series of still images? There are already a handful of applications being developed connecting these two dots, designed to entirely automate the storyboarding process. For example, the aptly named Storyboarder.ai takes a industry-standard formatted script as input, analyzes the file, separates out the file into a segmented shot list, then lets the user auto-generate images using the text in the script itself as the prompts. Users can then refine the results with a simple list of dropdowns to adjust the basics of the shot type, or regenerate the output image until they find something that matches their needs. While this, in theory, can save a lot of time and labor costs, I can't help but feel how this cuts at the very heart of the creative process of animated filmmaking, and filmmaking in general. Storyboards and the animatics that follow are where the majority of the visual storytelling decisions in the visual medium film are really made. Things like shot composition, framing, and pacing are all decided here. So many of the most iconic moments in film are the result of incredibly deliberate, immaculately detailed choices of composition and timing. All of that comes from storyboarding. To so casually toss aside that core tenet of expression to an algorithm To call the entire art form a laborious and time-consuming process in the marketing copy of your product's pitch just feels like such a colossal failure of understanding. Or, at the very least, utter disrespect given to the creative process. AI art is a lot of things, both good and bad, but I don't think anyone would call its ability to create dynamic compositions a major strength of any image model we have today. I feel like using this software as the backbone for the visual presentation of your film would result in a flat, stilted visual language. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to a point where artificial intelligence will be able to create shot dynamism that can rival the best in the industry. But what a tragic loss of human creativity in the process, outsourcing the literal soul of an entire medium to a machine. Regardless, the suits in charge of these companies are already seeing the potential savings of gutting animation of its most foundational creative elements. In an appearance at the Bloomberg New Economy panel, former DreamWorks CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg talked about the upcoming role of AI tools when it comes to animated film production, and seemed pretty bullish about both its inevitability as well as its ability to reduce overhead. He cited an estimate of nearly a 90% reduction in staff to creative animated films, compared to the roughly 500 talented artists that it would take while he was at the reins at the studio. Important to note, despite being the CEO of one of the largest animation studios, Katzenberg himself isn't an animator and has no experience in the arts. So his lack of care for the creative element of the work isn't all that surprising. On the other hand, he also co-founded Quibi, which managed to raise $1.75 billion in investor money, but shut down 6 months after launch. No wonder he's trying to cut back on spending now. I think that's reason enough to not take his opinions on the future too seriously. Nevertheless, his optimistic thinking on cost reduction shows how people with his class interests and sensibilities see this technology. He also talked about how he sees AI becoming a fundamental tool in animation going forward, and that while the raw creative ideas for films will most likely stem from humans,
of individual creativity, you can have access to all of this knowledge. It's your ability to prompt it that actually produces a result. And so prompting is in fact going to be a creative commodity, and across many, many, many different aspects of storytelling.
Oh boy, I can't freaking wait.
What about Daisy?
Chrysanthemum.
Iris? Rose? What about Rose?
Did you say Rose?
Yeah, Rose.
Ooh, Rose is good.
Rose by any other name. Yeah, that works.
I like
All right.
that a lot.
Okay. All right.
Rose.
Moving on.
So what are the arguments against the use of AI in creative fields? One concern is that creativity and art are more than just labor. They are sources of human expression. The reduction of labor that AI provides may not be applicable to creative fields where people often pursue artistic endeavors out of passion rather than financial gain. The creative process has always been a means of expressing something uniquely human, which is why people create just for the sake of creating, even if they don't profit from it. In contrast, people do not typically feel the same level of fulfillment or enjoyment from menial office work like data entry or accounting. It's difficult to articulate, but there's something essential about the human experience that is conveyed through the creative process that is not easily replicated by machines. Therefore, some argue that automation should not creep into this expressive and essential aspect of human existence. This argument states that incorporating AI into creative fields actively goes against human expression, and it shouldn't be automated. That creative expression is sacred and brings people pleasure, and automating it would render art as a creative concept obsolete. That people should be freed from the drudgery of manual labor so they can spend more time on creative pursuits that bring them joy and fulfillment. Now, it is plausible that the use of AI in automating such tasks would have positive implications, especially for individuals involved in manual labor jobs that require the lifting of heavy objects or involve repetitive actions. We've already had historical evolutions in technology that have made those processes easier. But art as a process is rewarding because of the work that goes into it. And even attempting to automate art isn't just wrong, it's clearly lacking humanity. Related to this topic is the idea that AI will eventually replace artists. Even among those who advocate for AI as an exciting new technology, there are smug individuals out there who say things like, "Artists, time to get a new job," and treat their concerns as a joke. It's difficult to understand why they'd think this way, especially considering that these tools only work effectively when they're trained on datasets created by the same people who will be replaced by it. Despite this, many people online tend to make this argument. Currently, the areas that AI can replace human efforts are relatively small, but based on industry trends, it's going to be growing rapidly. As it stands, the only area that AI has the potential to disrupt is probably small online businesses that survive off of commissions. In this case, instead of paying hundreds of dollars for a well-made drawing of a character, individuals can spend a short amount of time typing prompts into software to create a decent-looking image. Close enough to the real thing, at least in the eyes of someone who wouldn't be willing to pay a fair rate for original art anyway. If an artist's business is solely based on their artistic skill, their sales pitch would be, "Okay, I have a distinct style and skill level that other people like, so I'm going to apply that skill to create work for others for a price." But if their business is only based on this type of work and they aren't doing any projects that are more complex, then there's a very real possibility that a piece of software can be trained to replicate what they do in seconds for free. Creating art isn't some exclusive club, but it does take time and dedication to get better at it. There are specific rules and aesthetic principles that are important to learn if you want to take it seriously. Using AI is like using a cheat code that skips all that. It's a lower barrier to entry, but the results don't give you any real insight into the process to gain any technical know-how.
There, now it's art.
Commissioned work is the foundation of an artist's livelihood, which they have spent years honing their talents to achieve. Commissions involve transforming a client's vision into an image, and services like Stable Diffusion can do so instantly and, arguably, more effectively than most artists who charge for their work. This is because AI is trained on a vast array of art from around the world. Thousands of images to collect data from, whereas individual artists are limited by their own experiences and skills. That's not an insult, by the way, just a factual yet sobering observation. Not everybody puts the same value on developing or supporting a skill. If they can get something close enough to what they want for basically no money, a lot of people will go for it. It's pure laziness, sure, but it's true, and these image generators wouldn't be so popular if that wasn't the case. This can reduce the demand for traditional artists and devalue the quality of their work, potentially rendering their services financially unviable or completely irrelevant in the worst-case scenario. Ironically, this leads us right back to the previous point about AI leaving us with nothing but our manual labor to trade for a wage if the process continues. Furthermore, the dataset used to train artificial intelligence models is often gathered illegitimately and violates copyright law. At the time of recording this video, there is currently a lawsuit happening in the Supreme Court to determine the legal precedent for this issue. The defense for AI being used is that the works are transformative and, therefore, covered under fair use. Regardless of the legal outcome, it's immoral for companies to use these datasets without proper compensation to the original artists. However, it seems that Stability AI both recognizes the ethical implications but has willfully chosen to ignore it. And yeah, this is pretty consistent with other actions they've taken on their other projects. Stability is also developing a music-generating model, similar to Stable Diffusion, but for audio instead of images. At the outset, they've stated that they only use public domain music to train this model, because they know that using copyrighted music would result in severe consequences from the Recording Industry Association of America, or the RIAA. Can confirm those guys mean business.
What the hell is that? I don't know. Let me check.
Freeze, FBI! Down on the ground! Down on the ground! Hands! Let me see those hands! Tango team is at Point Bravo. Suspects in custody!
Regardless, it's pretty clear that Stability AI's actions do not stem from any principles of sharing information and democratizing art. They knew they could get away with taking advantage of a broken system, because artists are constantly mistreated. But for recording artists and musicians, the greater business interests have enough power and money to shut them down. Either way, Stability AI knew what they were doing while gathering data to leech off of, but they weren't dumb enough to pick a fight they couldn't win. This raises the issue of style theft, which is closely related to the previous points. When an AI model is trained on everything on the internet, including the works of prolific artists, their entire style is categorized and can be synthesized with a simple prompt. Like, if you've seen an Andy Warhol painting before, chances are you'd be able to pick one out of a lineup. He has a distinct pop art graphic style that has been imitated for ages now. But this creates a potentially damaging possibility to independent artists, because the value of their work, particularly their unique style they've spent their entire life cultivating, is devalued. For instance, if an artist makes their living selling commissions of personas, the reason you choose to commission them is because you prefer their personal style over the plethora of other artists that offer similar services. If those aesthetics have been plugged into an AI and potential clients can just type furry fox girl huge titties in X person style and get something relatively presentable after a few prompts and tweaks, well now, that entire market is in jeopardy. Young people that have access to this technology just want to make something. They don't understand the true impact on the future of this work that is made possible by normalizing the usage of it. Sure, the argument can be made that the tech isn't going anywhere, but that doesn't mean you submit to it. The only way change can happen is by pushing back and not accepting it easily. Regulations will only happen if they are demanded relentlessly. Technology often moves faster than the laws that are supposed to regulate it. And the massive advancements in AI over the last 2 years are no exception. When dealing with a rapidly evolving industry primarily happening in Silicon Valley, combined with an aging American Congress that barely understands what a computer even is, you have a stage perfectly set for businesses and bad actors to abuse politicians' ignorance for their own gain. Luckily, with AI set to disrupt so many, the pushback and concern over AI has been far more vocal, and legal battles that will decide what kind of role this new field of tech will have in our lives going forward have already begun to spring up. The first major legal battle concerning AI art was actually instigated by an AI artist themselves. In September 2022, Chris Castanova created a comic called Zarya of the Dawn, with all of the artwork in it generated in Midjourney, while they manually assembled the panels and created the script and dialogue. When trying to get the book copyrighted, the Copyright Office originally approved, only to retract it after learning the art was AI-generated. In the office's own words,
we conclude that Ms. Castanova is the author of the work's text, as well as the selection, coordination, and arrangement of the work's written and visual elements. That authorship is protected by copyright. However, as discussed below, the images and the work that were generated by the Midjourney technology are not the product of human authorship.
This was a significant step in helping codify how AI art might be treated legally going forward. The human labor in the piece was able to be protected, but art that was generated couldn't be legally protected. This would seemingly put a significant hamper on the adoption of the technology commercially, since any art created with it wouldn't be the sole intellectual property of the company funding it, which is the exact opposite of how companies want their stuff. OpenAI, the largest player in the world of AI technology, in defense of all these claims, has basically just shrugged and said that it is what it is.
Because copyright today covers virtually every sort of human expression, including blog post, photographs, forum post, scraps of software code, and government documents, it would be impossible to train today's leading AI models without using copyrighted materials.
You would think that if copyright law applies to basically everything that powers your business, and the business is by your own admission unable to operate without violating that copyright, you'd have to conclude that said business isn't viable. But OpenAI got $10 billion from Microsoft for doing it anyway. So what do I know?
Dude, how did you pull all that off? ChatGPT, dude.
Overall, it's hard to see how this will all play out over the next few years. The only entities that have the financial might to fight against massive corporations are other massive corporations. Essentially, we have a bunch of bullies getting a taste of their own medicine by a small handful of even bigger bullies. And now the regular bullies are crying about it to the teacher, trying to get the bigger bullies' detention. What will probably end up happening is that OpenAI and anyone running a business like theirs will have to license content from other major companies like the New York Times, the RIAA, and major book publishing companies. None of that licensing money will trickle down to anyone actually responsible for creating the content that's actually being scraped and assimilated to put those very people out of work. The rights of smaller businesses and the average everyday person will be ignored because they aren't financially relevant enough to matter. Everyone who is already obscenely wealthy will continue to get paid, and the rest of us will continue to suffer. Business as usual. With the only entities large enough to stop them being satisfied, the tech giants will then just strong-arm the stuff onto the rest of us and bulldoze through any remaining public dissent that collectively isn't loud enough to do anything to stop them, and keep pushing it into everyone's feeds until it becomes inescapable. But there may be a silver lining to all this, though. Let's say everything that could go wrong does go wrong. These companies create easily accessible tools that generate perfect results. Laws fail to protect creators, and we land in a completely deregulated space that throws copyright protection to the wind. These tools end up in every device, website, and consumer electronic with the backing of every billionaire shareholder. Pretty much exactly what everyone gunning to make money off this stuff right now is aiming for. If trends so far hold, it's becoming clear that even if the tool is perfect, the results can only go so far as the person using it. And a common factor of nearly everyone championing AI and bold enough to show off their results? They lack something much more difficult to automate, and something a lot more subtle: good taste. Due to the open and available nature of technology like Stable Diffusion, there are examples of tech bros posting projects like comics, novels, even entire short films on social media using nothing more than a collection of AI tools, and the results have been very subpar. They want to create art, but have zero talent and no taste whatsoever, so whatever they come up with is going to suck ass. Period. Even if we ignore the fact that these people are struggling against the current limitations of the tools, creating more complex pieces with tools designed mostly for singular static images, that really isn't the problem I have with these projects. Fighting an uphill battle against limitation is probably the most creatively valid aspect of these works, in all honesty. The more relevant commonality is the consistent lack of finesse. No amount of aesthetic sleight of hand can make up for lacking an eye for composition, pacing, dialogue choice, visual storytelling, and just direction in general. Anyone can hop onto Midjourney and generate an image, but that person still won't have any understanding of why it's good. And perhaps, more importantly, why it may not be good if they have no background or education in the arts. And who would be more incentivized to latch onto these tools than people without that know-how or background? I feel kinda bad specifically picking on one small guy's project, but The Lost Father by The Real Robot is really indicative of everything I'm trying to demonstrate here. From the ridiculous number of cuts that give the shots no time to breathe, to a location that seems to shift back and forth from Japan to somewhere in Europe at random, to jarring attempts at adding limited animation and lip movements to what started as static illustrations, The Lost Father is a classic example of how amateur a project can feel when the person in charge has no real idea of what they're doing, even if the surface technical elements are there. It's the room of AI projects. Taste may be the final bastion of human creativity, and what may keep a fair amount of creative people employed, even if this technology becomes commonplace and inescapable. It'll be very difficult for people who are more interested in developing this technology for its own sake to direct the models to replicate anything more than the surface aesthetics of the work their models are ingesting. Just recently even, we had that Willy Wonka-themed experience debacle that happened in Glasgow, Scotland. The organizer for it used a ton of AI art, not just in the advertisements, but also set decoration for the event itself. And yeah, it was so hilariously awful that the event went viral online for blatant false advertising and scamming unsuspecting families. This is not a land of chocolate dreams. It's an industrial warehouse where you get a small cup of lemonade and 3 jelly beans. That'll be 35 pounds, please. The performers were clearly embarrassed to be there, but they got a surprising amount of fan art from people online. You know, actual artists who were inspired to create art all by themselves. Like, as weird as this situation is, I'm kind of glad that AI art is rapidly being appropriated by the people who exploit it the most, meaning con artists and grifters, so people will gradually learn to recognize it and be more cautious with how using it is handled. It's poetic justice in a way, you know? The people at the helm at these companies, at least the ones in the public eye, are seemingly completely uneducated on the more subtle ways in which the art they're photocopying actually moves people. Without that critical component, for the foreseeable future, AI art will always be missing something to those that see art as something with soul, and not merely as content to be generated. And that gives me hope.
Sabi, count me in on that fight. When it comes to your art, I will always prefer the stuff that is hand-drawn from human artists. Take this design, for example. Yeah, the one that's on my shirt that you can buy in my merch shop. Completely drawn from a human and not a computer, unlike this garbage.
You put me on a shirt?
Yep.
Well, I guess it could be worse. Just send my check in the mail.
Do you accept NFTs?
Oh my god!